Good evening, America. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from the nation's capital in the wiredtofishcoffee.com studios. You know this Wired to Fish coffee is my favorite coffee. I drink it every morning with breakfast. It's the official coffee of Just the News, and you can go right now and get a 10% discount on all of their great blends, including their new Just the News mug. Go check that out. There's also an autographed book that you can get from me. Go to wired2fishcoffee.com. Use the promo code JustNews at checkout or put your camera at that QR code and you're going to be in business, 10% off. All right, folks, a little programming note tonight. Amanda Head is giving a speech out of town tonight. I'm going to fly solo tonight. And normally we would do a lot of headlines because it's been a busy news day like it is every day of the Trump presidency. We're going to do a little bit different today. Why? Because the man who is the quarterback of President Trump's national security policies, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, is going to join us in just a second. Later in the show, we're going to tackle a couple of other big subjects today, including the Supreme Court's historic arguments in a parents' rights case that could reshape the future of parents' rights in their battles with school districts all across this country. We're going to get to all of that, but there's no better way to start off a show where there's a lot of news going on in the world than have a conversation, a 30-minute, nearly 30-minute conversation with the man who's at the forefront of discussions on Russia, China, Iran, Pete Hegseth. We covered everything. Have a listen to my conversation just a little while ago with National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. All right, folks, we're going to kick off tonight's show with a man who has spent his entire adult life in service of his country, 3 decades in the U.S. Army as a Green Beret, rising to the rank of colonel, a winner of a Bronze Star, and then he went to Congress, served the great constituents of Florida, and today he serves President Trump as his National Security Advisor. We're very lucky to be joined by Mike Waltz. Mike, good to have you on, sir.
Hey, thanks, John. Always good to be with you, and thanks for fighting for the truth and for America.
Yeah, we're very lucky to do so, and very lucky to have you on. You're on the front lines of all these important security issues. Let me start with the announcement that came out of the White House earlier today that the stage is set for a deal with China. Give us some sense of what might that look like. How's the engagement been with Beijing, and is this limited to trade, or could it also involve issues like Taiwan?
Yeah, John, you know, the President Trump is the deal maker in chief. I mean, he truly defines the art of the deal. And for too long, I saw this in Congress. We see this in Middle America. Our manufacturing has been gutted. Our jobs go abroad. We have critical supply chains that need to come home to the United States. And, you know, that's what the president is determined to make happen. He is using tariffs effectively. Those generate revenue for the American people. Those drive the supply chains back home. And it gives him a platform and leverage, frankly, that only President Trump knows how to do in terms of reestablishing fair trade. And we've seen administration after administration in the past let the United States and let the American worker not get the better end of these deals. John, case in point, from pharmaceuticals, critical minerals, our ability to manufacture ships that we need to export our goods from our farmers to what manufacturers that are still out there manufacturing. He just passed an amazing executive order to put a kind of a defibrillator back to our shipbuilding industry. Case in point, China, 1,700 new ship orders. The United States, less than a dozen, just in the last couple of years. Those are welders, those are electricians, those are steel workers. That's the iron, that's the aluminum. Those are all the things that we need for our amazing economy, our amazing worker. And that's the kind of thing that'll be negotiated by President Trump's economic team, but with huge national security implications, with President Trump leading the charge.
Yeah, that's such a historic opportunity. Has the engagement with China over the last few weeks been good, solid? Is there good conversations going on behind the scenes?
Well, they're certainly reaching out, John. That's because what President Trump knows is that they need our markets. They want us to purchase goods. President Trump knows how to use leverage. At the same time, he'll have a good relationship with these heads of state. He'll have a relationship with President Xi, with leaders around the world. He understands that you have to have that good, strong personal interaction. You can be tough. You can be tough in talks, be tough in negotiations. President Trump's absolutely tough. I haven't seen of anybody who has the kind of instincts that he has, but at the same time, get to a deal and get to a deal that has America first and is good for the American people.
That's so important. The other big giant in the Asia-Pacific region is India. A lot of progress there. A great state visit by Prime Minister Modi here. I understand today there have been very significant conversations, including between the president and Prime Minister Modi. Can you bring us up to date on how things are progressing on that front?
Well, there was sadly a terrorist attack in India that killed dozens of people. The president and Prime Minister Modi have a great relationship. He was one of the first leaders that came to see the president in the White House. It is a crucial relationship, the world's largest democracy and the world's oldest democracy. But they've also had some very realistic and tough engagements on trade. We have to lower their barriers for our markets. At the same time, they're buying our defense equipment. They are shifting in terms of coming more towards the United States. And so all of those things are in play. But today's call was really about condemning terrorism, making sure that the people of India and Prime Minister Modi knows that President Trump and the United States of America stands with them.
Yeah, all of our hearts go out to those who lost loved ones today in Kashmir. It was a really tragic moment. Yeah, terrible. Sir, the president's begun laying out a concrete plan for peace between Ukraine and Russia, something that was never possible during the Biden years. Can you give us the latest on where those talks stand, and what are some of the key pillars that could become part of a deal?
Well, I think if a couple of the key pillars are going to be the discussions around the territory, discussions around making sure that this doesn't happen again. As President Trump rightly has said over and over again, this war should have never happened and did not happen in his first term. It happened. It happened under President Obama, who literally threw blankets and sheets at the problem. President Trump actually armed Ukraine to try to prevent it from happening. And then it happened under Biden. President Trump in his second term is determined to end the killing, to stop the fighting. This is the largest land war in Europe that, again, shouldn't have happened in the first place. And we have to ask ourselves, who can oppose a president who is trying to use diplomacy, use negotiations, and talk about those key issues to end this war that is killing thousands of people per day? That's one piece. And then the other piece is Europe has to step up for its own security needs. The United States has obligations all over the world, but most importantly has obligations to its fellow Americans. And I could tell you, when President Trump was in his first term, literally a little more than half a dozen countries were meeting their 2% bare minimums. That doubled under his first term. He is going to continue to demand 5% of their GDP heading into a big NATO summit this year. And that's when you look at countries like Canada, who a decade ago committed to do the minimum 2%, still isn't there, and is saying a decade from now it'll be at the minimum. President Trump is saying no. You need makeup money, so to speak. You need to all be at 5%. And a key pillar of this is that Europe take the lead for Europe's security.
Yeah, that'd be a historic moment. Already historic progress on the front, but getting to that next phase will really be historic for the American economy. So I want to turn a little bit to an issue that we all understand, but doesn't get enough attention.
By the way, John, I mean, it isn't easy to end these conflicts.
No,
you hear a lot of criticism and chirping from the mainstream media, from the DC swamp, but you don't hear a lot of solutions. Biden never really set out what is victory. President Trump says, you know what, ending the killing. is his goal, and that's what he's determined to do. But you have a lot of people criticizing, not a lot of people offering real solutions.
Yeah, it seems almost as though like they're rooting for it to go on instead of the success that a peace would bring. It is really remarkable. We're all familiar with the threat that terrorism is bringing, but it doesn't get really covered a lot in the media these days. But the world that the administration inherited was really far more dangerous and chaotic than the one President Trump left behind in 21, especially with the resurgence of Iranian-backed terrorists like Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis. Can you give us an update on the sense and scope of efforts to neutralize those threats? There seems to have been an enormous number of neutralizations in recent weeks.
Yeah, I can tell you from ISIS to Al-Qaeda to groups like Al-Shabaab, all who have plots and plans to hit the homeland once again. And if you look under the Biden administration with a wide open border, that was incredibly dangerous. President Trump has eliminated 74 named terrorist leaders that the Biden administration wasn't going after. That's incredible. You add to that 45 Americans who are being held hostage by various regimes and groups around the world that he's brought home. That is just an incredible achievement in just a couple of months. And that's everything from Special Envoy Witkoff, our amazing Secretary of State Rubio, the rebuilding of the American military so that we have a credible deterrent and real strength under Secretary Hegseth, our hostage negotiator, Adam Bowler. So it's just a great team that's around the president, that's bought into his vision and is getting real results day in and day out. I mentioned the border, by the way. You've got the government of Mexico putting over 10,000 troops on their side of the border, coupled with Secretary Hegseth, folks like Stephen Miller, all under the direction of the president. Me trying to push everyone in the same direction, not that they need it, but keeping it all coordinated. And we have a 95% drop in border crossings. You couple that with taking the fight to the terrorists overseas, and Americans should sleep better at night. We're only 3 months in, and look at the results President Trump is getting. The mainstream media doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah, 74 is a huge number. I mean, that is such a huge number. First time I've heard that. Such an important fact to have for all of us. I want to talk a little bit about an upcoming trip to the Middle East. The president has announced that. There's a lot of excitement. It seems like the stage might be set for Abraham Accords 2.0 with Saudi Arabia, maybe some other countries. Tell us what you hope to achieve on this next trip.
Well, look, it is really stepping back into resetting the Middle East. Under Biden, you saw the worst violence against Israel with the October 7th attack in nearly 20 years. You saw the Houthis shutting down shippings, firing on our own warships dozens and dozens of times with pinprick attacks back, and global shipping being shut down in the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, with really him doing nothing about it. You saw violence exploding in terms of attacks on our bases. President Trump is taking that all on and getting real results. What we want to see under this next term is a return to peace. The more we're talking about trillions of dollars in investments from these countries into the United States of America, things like data centers, AI, rail, infrastructure, and getting back to having real peace accords and growing the Abraham Accords. That's what President Trump is. He is the president of peace. He's the president of diplomacy. He's the president of tough negotiations. And you're going to see that unfold in his overseas trips.
Wow, a lot of news here. A prediction of what's going to come on the Mideast trip, Abraham Accords 2.0, and a number I think everyone's going to remember by tomorrow morning. 74 terrorists already killed in the first 90 days of the Trump presidency, and specifically from groups that he said, Mike Waltz just said, we're targeting the U.S. homeland again. A real outgrowth of what happened during the Biden years with that open border. Now, we got lots more news to come in this interview. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, more with Mike Waltz on the state of China, on what's going on elsewhere, and a very strong, full-throated defense of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. We'll get to all of that right after these next messages. Hey, it's a new day in America and a new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do as well, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. Their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust, and their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy, as well as your family. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of these medications. From the flu to strep throat, from COVID to the bird flu, from a trip to the beach to a trip overseas, the Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your family safe. Make America healthy again. Start at home. Do your part and protect the health of you and your family. Go to twc.health/justnews today and order. That's twc.health/justnews and use the promo code JUSTNEWS to save 10% off. Welcome back, everybody. Amanda's out giving a speech tonight, so I'm flying solo. We're going to get right back to my exclusive interview with National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. I want you to listen closely to when we get to the Pete Hegseth and Signal Gate, if you want to call it that. That's what the media have called it. Listen closely to what you're going to learn about the Biden administration. The Biden administration is the people who put Signal in motion for the Trump administration. You're going to listen to that. It's a really important part. We're going to go right back to our interview with Mike Waltz. Tell us a little bit. There seemed to be some optimism this weekend coming out of the second or third round of talks with Iran. Tell us what you think is going on and what's possible.
Well, President Trump's been crystal clear that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, that all options are on the table, but he absolutely prefers making a deal, and we're getting positive indications in that regard. So I'm not going to get ahead of the president or his negotiating team. We're here in full support of his vision. He knows how to use leverage appropriately, and is driving that process. Look, and in line with his goals. So that's the task before us that he has set as commander in chief. And I got to tell you, we're going to make a heck of a lot more progress than you saw in prior administrations. And you're certainly not going to see things like sunset provisions. The Obama deal would have been ending right now. He's a president of common sense, and we're going to see common sense approaches.
Yeah, the mere fact that the two sides are talking directly is in itself an extraordinary achievement that hasn't been had in a long time. So really something to look at.
That's right.
So I want to talk a little bit about the way the media covers Secretary Hegseth. If you were reading the newspapers today, you'd swear that Secretary Hegseth was on thin ice with the president. You're his quarterback on security. You know his performance better than anyone when it comes to the defense secretary. Give us your assessment. Is he in any trouble, or is he going to be just fine?
Now, let me tell you something about our Secretary of Defense. I was proud to introduce him at his Senate confirmation hearing. We've known each other for many years. When I was a member of Congress, we talked a lot about getting, especially under the Biden team, getting the military back to lethality, getting them back to being a meritocracy, getting them back to putting respect and fear into our adversaries so that we can keep the peace through strength. And I'm so proud of him. That's exactly what he's been doing. But guess what? When you shake up the system, the system tends to come after you. And look, he is doing a great job from the president. That's for the president. That's the president's word. But more importantly, he's doing a great job for the troops. And as a veteran, as a Green Beret, I still talk to special operators all the time, giving me ground truth in this position. And they couldn't be more thrilled with the leadership of Secretary Hegseth. I said that at the Senate hearing, and I'm saying it again now. And President Trump has said it over and over again. But let me just tell you another thing. We have seen hearing after hearing over the years where everything in going through the Pentagon bureaucracy costs way too much, comes way too late, and delivers way too little to our warfighters. Enough is enough. And you hear all of those senators complaining about it, but when you have a change agent coming in and President Trump and his Secretary of Defense, then you see a lot of hands getting thrown up. Well, you know what? We need to reform our bureaucracy. We need to reform the way we buy ships, the way we buy technology. We need to create a military of the future that gives those men and women willing to defend all of us the training, the equipment, and the leadership that they deserve. I'm proud to see Secretary Hegseth doing all of that. And you know what? The swamp's gonna react, and that's okay. He is tough, and it only makes him tougher.
Yeah, he proved that during his confirmation. He's not a guy you're going to take on easily. He gets things done. So I want to turn to, we've long since ago left behind Signal, whatever we want to call it, the Signal issue. There are two facts that I think get left out of the mainstream media. I just want to pin them down with you because I think you know directly this. The Biden administration, did the Biden administration authorize the use of Signal for government officials on sensitive conversation? And has the Trump administration take concrete actions to secure sensitive text messages in the future? I don't think get ignored by the rest of the media. I think you have good answers to both.
Yeah, look, it absolutely was authorized by the Biden administration. That's why Director Radcliffe, said it was sitting there his first day in office. Why? Because the Chinese were trying to intercept all of our communications. Yep. But here's what the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the fact that that initial attack and subsequent attacks on the Houthis, which the Biden administration refused to do, have been phenomenally successful. The Houthis are running scared. They are getting pounded. President Trump made it crystal clear that we have to have open sea lanes. And what they don't want to talk about now is under his leadership, under Secretary Hegseth's leadership, recruiting numbers are going up for the first time. Retention numbers are going up. We're talking about meritocracy and morale and lethality across our military. That is all what people don't want to talk about, but what is the reality of what's happening. So look, let's get back to the president's agenda. Enough of those distractions, because his agenda is delivering results that the American people are quite pleased with and are definitely safer with.
Yeah, there's no doubt. One of those successes, as you mentioned earlier, all the things that have happened at the border has become more secure quicker than any time in our history. There is a tremendous progress made against MS-13 and Tren de Agua. Some people have questions about whether Tren de Agua is really tied to the Maduro administration in Venezuela. I think the FBI thinks so. Some others, like the NIC, maybe not. Can you give us your best assessment of whether there are any connections between Tren de Agua and the Maduro regime?
Yeah, well, the president designated them a foreign terrorist organization like MS-13 and like the Houthis, for that matter, that Biden had lifted that designation. And there is, I think, no argument and no debate that the organizations like Tren de Agua, like MS-13 and others, and the Mexican cartels are terrorizing the American people. They are pumping in chemicals like fentanyl that are killing tens of thousands of Americans across our country every year. That President Trump has taken a much tougher approach, working with Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, Kash Patel at the FBI. These are the threats the American people are facing day in and day out. And this is a core of an America First approach. And we know that Maduro is emptying our prisons, has no problem with these gangs coming into our inner cities. But you've also seen through some tough action, you've seen Mexico taking people back. You've seen Venezuela taking people back. You saw Colombia try to reject the deportation flights, and within a span of about 12 hours, changed its mind when President Trump threatened tariffs against them. But you've also seen, which is important, a much tougher approach on the cartels, working with the Mexican government. Look, these cartels control whole swaths of Mexico and our southern border. That is completely unacceptable. And these groups aren't like the mafia. They're more like ISIS. They are combating the Mexican army in full-on firefights. They're shooting at aircraft. They deserve all aspects of our national power to be used against them to defend our sovereignty, to defend our borders. And that's why you've seen the Defense Department under Secretary Hegseth and Trump's leadership shift its assets to actually defend America first. All of those things just in a few months are in train. And then we haven't even talked about, John, the Panama Canal, the first Latin American nation to reject China, to end Belt and Road, and to move back in our direction in years. Why? Because 74% of shipping that coming in and out of our ports that transits that canal is coming to the United States. These are all critical assets. And when you reintroduce America into our own hemisphere, from the Arctic all the way down to our border, to the Panama Canal and into South America, you see these kind of results.
It's just remarkable. You're the quarterback that have put all this strategy together. It's really impressive what's been achieved in less than 90 days. A lot quiz question, because a big thing happened today with Marco Rubio over the State Department. We Republicans have been talking about reforming the State Department, I don't know, since before Ronald Reagan. You got it done today. Just give us your sense of how important that was.
Well, again, you hear people talking about it. You hear Congress having hearings about it. This is actually happening under Secretary Rubio, under President Trump. Enough is enough with a bureaucracy that kind of exists to support itself, that needs to be in line with the president's vision. We're streamlining government across the board. And we finally have taken that step with the president and with the State Department. So this is another great day for the American taxpayer, I think, that says we want to see results.
Yeah, it's an amazing accomplishment all across the board. All things we talked about would take years in other presidencies. It happens in weeks in this presidency, a lot because of your stewardship of the National Security Council. Sir, a great honor to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks, John. And I just want to look, just one other point, right? And this is how at the National Security Council, we have to pull things together. If we have some type of cyber attack, that's pulling together the FBI, the DOJ, the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, getting the president's guidance, teeing up effective, balanced decisions for him, getting his common sense approach, and then implementing. And so whether it's the border, whether it's those types of things, whether it's our policies abroad on counterterrorism or ending wars, that's what we do. I'm proud to do that and be a part of it, and a part of this amazing cabinet that shows up every day thinking about the American people, thinking about the troops over there that are keeping us safe, saluting this commander-in-chief and moving out. So, thank you. Thank you for highlighting what the mainstream media doesn't want to do, all these amazing successes in just a short amount of time.
It is crazy how short a period of time it is. And I suspect that pace is going to keep up as long as you're at the helm. Sir, great honor to have you on today.
Oh,
Thanks
he's
for joining
all gas.
us.
It's all about him. He is all gas about getting things
sure
done.
Is.
Believe
Never
me.
takes the foot off it, does he?
Right?
Thank you, sir. Great to have you on today. Thanks for joining us. Well, a lot more news there, including a very stark warning to the drug cartels that all the might of the American military may also be put at their disposal to punish them for the drug wars they're inflicting on America. A lot of good stuff. We're going to break down some of the big revelations in this interview in a second with Colonel Rob Maness when we come back. But first, a commercial break from our great sponsors and supporters here at Real America's Voice and Just the News. Welcome back, America. After an interview like that with so many different major news topics we covered and big news, actually headlines coming out, I thought we'd turn to someone that understands the security system as well as anyone I know. He's a United States Air Force veteran. He's also the host of a great show called The Rob Maness Show. Colonel Rob Maness. Colonel, good to have you back on the show.
Good evening, John. Good to be here.
All right. I know you got a chance to listen into a big part of that interview. There were a lot of things that tickled my ear. I think his discussion about the border, the very pointed warning to drug cartels that the full might of the United States might be facing them soon. Your takeaways from what Mike Waltz told us in that interview.
Yeah, on the border, John, the coverage of the federal lands area that the military was just given control over, that goes all the way from El Paso across the west there, is a really big deal, and it's a good opportunity for the armed forces to be able to do their job the way they're supposed to do it. Secretary Hegseth has said we are going to have operational control of the United States southern border, and that move will do that. That disrupts, almost by its very nature and existence, all of the lines of communication and logistics lines that come across the border that the cartels control. The military can now secure that area as if it's a military installation, which prevents cartel personnel from coming in and sneaking across and using human trafficking trails to get across. And all of those types of activities that the armed forces down in that area used to have to rely upon local law enforcement and other federal law enforcement agencies for. The military can take charge of that now. And that really will improve our ability to keep that under control and to stop the cartels logistically, which is the big effort, really, that has to happen in order to stop things like the fentanyl traffic coming across and human trafficking.
Yeah, and as you said, it's one of the most underreported developments. I mean, the success is outstanding. I mean, I don't think anyone could imagine this happening in 90 days or less like it has, but it barely gets talked about because everybody wants to talk about Signal Gate or something else. It's sort of silly, the extraordinary progress that's getting ignored. There was another moment in here where there's also been enormous progress, and that is we're finally striking back against the terrorists who have been shooting at our troops for 4 years with almost no response from Joe Biden. 74 terrorists, he said, terrorist leaders had been killed in the U.S. strikes that Trump ordered. Some of those were airstrikes. Some of those were targeted operations by special forces. That's a huge number. It's not anywhere in the media discussion today. A big change. Terrorists are on alert. They're not going to push America around anymore, right?
They're absolutely right. You know, it seems the media just wants to talk about getting rid of Pete Hegseth, which is not going to happen, in my opinion. Donald Trump is unique in that way. But they don't want to talk about the successes. You've heard the leadership say that in the administration. I'll say it here, too. They just don't want to talk about the successes. Have you seen a Houthi missile launch towards Israel or any other country in the Middle East lately? Have you seen much coverage of Houthis continuing to fire at commercial shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden? Have you heard from the Iranians that their command and control and intelligence targeting ship is being effective lately? You haven't, and you haven't because of the huge success the United States Armed Forces is having over those types of attack activities. And you mentioned the Special Forces operations. The more use of our Special Forces to do that type of removing terrorist bad guys from the battlefield, the better off we are, because this is going to reestablish peace through strength, so that the United States isn't having to do kinetic operations everywhere, because we're going to deter a lot of these types of activities and prevent them in many other ways.
Yeah, our military had their hands tied behind the back for a long time. Not anymore with Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, or Mike Waltz. It's pretty clear that they've got the go order to strike these bad actors. There's another part in the interview where we get into all the major negotiations that the president is involved in. Iran, a lot of optimism about Mike Waltz that they might be able to get to a meaningful deal, but there's no deal that will be made if there's a nuclear program left in Iran. Are you surprised that these conversations have kept on going and there seems to be some glimpses of progress?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Look, Donald Trump is the author of The Art of the Deal. So he's a deal maker. He understands what his goals are. His goal is to not start another or increase to a broader war across the Middle East that destroys our friends and also destroys the people in the countries whose governments are our adversaries. That is not the intent, and nor should it be, of the United States of America and our allies. So I'm not surprised at all, number one, that he's taking this approach. And number two, that we think we're being successful with it. I'm just ecstatic about that. But the key is, like you said, we have to get to a place where there is zero Iranian nuclear weapons program at all. And that's going to take a lot of verification and ongoing operational activity that the Iranian government is going to have to allow on their territory in order for that to be functioning.
Yeah, another place where I thought Mike Waltz gave us a lot of insight is on sort of the pillars of where they're trying to go with the Ukraine-Russia deal. That's a tough one to get done. Everyone understands that. But he said three things, right? The first is end the killing. Two, realign the land, that there's going to be a change in the borders of the countries because Russia made so much progress in these wars. And then three, Europe has to step in and be a larger peacekeeper than the United States in the region. Three very big ideas at the heart of this. I know today there was a little kerfuffle over the Crimean region being recognized, but those are three things at least everyone has clarity on now. Your thoughts on what he said about that?
Yeah, I've been assuming that the Crimea and at least the three breakaway independents declaring Donbass republics are going to become Russian territory formally once this is all over. So that shouldn't surprise anyone. Russia went into this combat operation because of the pressure it was feeling of what it calls its near abroad. That's Ukraine's territory there. And they were already trying to help the Russian ethnic people that were in a total civil war with the other Ukrainians in that part of the country in the first place. So it won't surprise me if the deal ends like that. You know, some of the promising information that I saw today, though, is that Zelensky has finally said openly that he's open to a ceasefire on the front lines. And the Russians called that Easter break ceasefire. I know it was broken from what a lot of reporting is saying, but that's all good news. Yeah. And it tells me that we're getting progress. And I just saw the reporting that the negotiators are going back to talk to Russia and President Putin here in the next few days. All promising. It's complex. It takes time in order to build enough trust relationship between those two sides, but with the United States and Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff, his negotiator, working that issue, I think we're going to eventually see success there.
Yeah, and you couldn't have it unless you began talking, which didn't happen at all during the Biden years. It's really kind of remarkable how little conversation there really was as the war raged on. Colonel Rob Maness, every time you come on this show, I always feel like I leave a lot smarter. I know our audience does too. Great to have you on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me on, John.
Yeah, always enjoy you. Thanks so much. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, the Supreme Court heard a very important case today concerning parents' rights. Tiffany Justice will join me. She's one of the best experts on parents' rights I know anywhere in the world. We're going to have that next, right after these messages. Hey folks, did you know that other seniors group, AARP, has promoted Drag Queen Story Hour events? Really, it's true. And it's just one example of their steady shift towards a progressive political agenda. They supported Obamacare, opposed the Trump tax cuts, and they continue to align with policies that many everyday Americans simply don't agree with. That's why more and more people are turning to AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. It's a conservative alternative to AARP. AMAC is working hard to protect Social Security, fight for election integrity, and promote the constitutional and common sense values that matter to you and me. And it's not just for seniors. Anyone can join regardless of age. Right now, AMAC is offering an exclusive deal, a 5-year membership. That's what I am. I've joined for 5 years for just $31. That's 47% off the regular rate of $60. But this special offer ends April 30th. So hurry up, go check it out. Your dues don't go to woke causes. They go towards supporting AMAC's advocacy work in Washington and across the country. To learn more and join today, visit amac.us/justnews. That's AMAC, AMAC.us/justnews. Welcome back, folks. As I mentioned, a really extraordinary set of arguments before the United States Supreme Court and its 9 justices today. The future of parents' rights at stake. I think the justices signaled in a big way where they're leaning. I thought I'd bring in one of the country's premier experts on parents' rights to talk about it. She currently is the Heritage Foundation's visiting fellow on parental rights. She's a mother of 4 and the co-founder of Moms for Liberty. She's also one of our great friends, Tiffany Justice. Tiffany, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, John. What a historic day in the Supreme Court of the United States of America for parental rights.
It really was, and I don't think the justices hid where their thinking is on this case. What was your takeaway when you listened to all the back and forth that went on today?
You know, the sign for me of the tipping point was really when Justice Kagan weighed in and said, you know, I think broadly, this is maybe more than just a religious issue. She said that she thought that there would be parents who were concerned about the materials just as far as age appropriateness was concerned. So, you know, you have this situation in Montgomery County where parents can opt their kids out of health and sexuality class. But now these Pride Storybook Collection books pointing kids to pride parade, puppy parade, saying, find the drag queen, find the leather. You can't opt your kids out of that because it's part of English language arts curriculum. So really, this was a clash of parental rights and religious liberty. Ultimately, John, I think it's a parental rights issue. Parents have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children. And the fact that schools are not allowing parents to opt their children out of this type of instruction, including gender ideology, is a big, big issue.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And I think you nailed it on the head. The case has always been presented as a religious freedom First Amendment case, but really the justices got down to the bottom tack today, which is this is about the right of parents to decide what schools can and can't teach their children, within reason and common sense. All right, let's suppose the Supreme Court goes the way that we think it does, because if Justice Kagan's talking this way, the conservatives are probably already there too. There's a good majority. Where does this battle go next? The teachers' unions who've pushed a lot of this, let's pull the power away from parents. Where do they go next? Where's the next fight?
So Justice Jackson brought up the fact she thought, if parents don't like it, they should just be able to take their kids out of school. So first and foremost, I think this was a big advertisement for school choice. We know President Trump has been a huge proponent of school choice. And so ultimately, parents should be looking for more options. Should expect more options about where they can send their children to school. Randy Weingarten was on with Martha McCallum today on Fox News. She called Martha sweetheart. Martha did not appreciate that. Martha brought up the fact that Maryland schools are failing. I think they were like third in the nation in 2013 when it came to reading. Now they're like 20th. And she said, why aren't you focusing on education and the educational failure that is happening? Randy's answer was that she didn't think the Supreme Court should be weighing in on this issue at all. She felt it was an issue of local control. So the biggest message and takeaway here, I think, is parents need to continue to stay involved and engaged and run for school board, because I think the left and the teachers unions are coming for local elections in a big way, John. They know President Trump's approval rating has stayed steady. We have the Senate and the House. God willing, we keep the Senate and the House through the midterms, and the left is going to be focused on local elections. So I think that's really where the left is going to turn as far as continuing to try to indoctrinate kids in school.
That's right, where you began your extraordinary efforts as a school board member, then as a co-founder of Moms for Liberty, and now I think as one of the premier voices helping parents and families get educated. Parents have learned a lot. It wasn't just from COVID-19, it was from all the work you have done and others like you. They're better armed. Where are they going to counterattack? How are they going to push back against teachers' unions? I guess it really comes down to who are the policy setters on these boards. It takes a lot of money and effort to get the right people elected, right?
It absolutely does. You're right. You say it takes a lot of money. It doesn't take a ton of money, honestly, in most of these school board races. It takes someone who has courage, who's willing to stand up and say, maybe I've been ignoring my responsibility to be involved in civic government, right? So stepping up and running for office is the first step. Or if your friend maybe is going to run for office, you can support them. Moms for Liberty endorses school board candidates across the United States. 1776 Action also endorsing school board candidates. And so, I do think that the fight is going to be at the local level. It was interesting today to hear Justice Kavanaugh. He's a lifelong resident of Montgomery County. And he said Maryland was founded on the issue of religious liberty. And so parents, you have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of your children. That's not a right the government gives you, and they certainly can't take it away easily. And so, we have to stand for our fundamental right to direct our kids' education, their medical care, their morality, and their religion. And at every level, we're seeing President Trump, RFK, people helping us to assert our parental rights. And so we have to do our part on the ground locally. And I have no doubt that this was a real turning point moment for parental rights in America. John, the decision that the Supreme Court makes in this case is going to have long-lasting implications for parental rights and education. And, it's not me that's done the hard work, honestly. It's the moms and dads on the ground that have stepped up all over the country. And the fight isn't over. You see things like that bill in Colorado that's saying that it's child abuse to not affirm your child's want of changing the gender, their gender. The government somehow thinks that we co-parent with them. They think that maybe they know better than us for our kids, and that is just not the case. So parents, do not take your foot off the pedal. We need to stay focused, and we need to make sure that we're advocating and fighting for our kids.
Yeah, and you help them also stay educated. We got about 45 seconds real quick. I thought there was a moment in the Justice Kavanaugh's question where there was some clarity for people. The left wants to say this is about controlling the entire school board curriculum. It's not. It's about giving a parent the right to opt out to something that collides with them and their children's beliefs, right?
Yeah, he said, I don't really understand what the issue is here, why parents can't opt out. The answer from the school district was, well, too many parents were opting out, and it's a real problem for us to be able to handle all the opt-outs. That should be a message to the school board. This nonsense is not wanted by parents in our public schools. So, yeah, Justice Kavanaugh hit the nail on the head, and just a very exciting day in the Supreme Court for parents and kids in America.
Lots of clarity today. We always get lots of clarity when we have you on. You are such a great subject expert, such a great advocate for moms, dads, and kids. Always a great honor to have you on the show, Tiffany. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what a great day. What a great conversation. All right, folks, one more break to go. When we come back, a little coffee time. Yeah, I'm in the mood for a cup of coffee, and I'll explain why right after the next message. All right, folks, I got a good headline to finish the show. My favorite coffee may be going global. Is that not just amazing? In just a few months, I mean, Wired to Fish Coffee's only been around a few months. We're so proud to be partnered with it. But now there's talk about countries all across the globe that want to be part of the phenomenon that is Wired to Fish Coffee. Now, I know why. It tastes great. It does great things. But we're going to get the latest scoop from Leah Thomas, one of the great co-founders here. Leah, welcome back to the show.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
I'm not surprised that there is global interest in this coffee, but tell us a little bit about who's been scratching and making a request to take your coffee global.
We've got folks reaching out to us from Japan and Singapore that are very interested in helping us go global. One of them's even offered their marketing team to us to help us in those areas. So we're pretty excited about that.
That is amazing. And listen, I know it starts with the taste because anyone who's a coffee drinker, we're very finicky. We know what we like and we don't like. The taste is out of this world. But as people learn what you do with the proceeds that you generate from the coffee sales, all the things you do to spread the gospel, to make sure that we have clean water and clean air for future generations of our American kids so they can go out and enjoy the outdoors like we do as people who like to fish and hunt and do things, it just seems to really catch fire. Remind us of some of the things that are going on around the globe that you're helping fund.
Yeah, I mean, we're still funding river cleanups and things like that. In fact, we're getting ready to do one that is not just in one area, but they're reaching out to all of their fans to do a simultaneous river cleanup around the nation here in about a month or so. So we're excited to be a part of that. We're still involved with the filter project in Kenya. My partner and I plan to go there actually in July and go to the Kitale and see some of these homes that these filters are going into. I didn't realize it, but these filters last for 1 million gallons or 20 years. So, I mean, even if we can get one of them into a home and give clean water to people, they could probably help their neighborhood for a long time. So
generational change.
Yeah, right. It's really cool. We just also came back from building a house in Dominican Republic for a family that didn't have one, and their pastor in the area recommended them. They didn't know Jesus before we got there, and it's just really encouraging to be involved in these kind of projects where you're touching people and making their lives better, kind of in a two-prong effort. So we're still doing those types of things. And then we've got our conservation efforts around the United States with greenhouse initiatives and fisheries and things like that. So we're still really busy, but I can kind of see why the Orient would be interested in us, because they do have fishery issues and they obviously have pollution issues. So there's a lot of work that I think we can do there for give back if we expand into those areas.
They probably have good taste, too, to know that the coffee just tastes great, too. That's what I'm sure they're going to find out as soon as they start getting it. It's great. I think you and I helped round up the last 60 or 70 copies of the book I wrote in 2020. It's still as relevant as ever. Russia and Ukraine still in the news. The scandals all confirmed. We've got 60, 70 left. I think I autographed them so people with get a private message. They get a special set of bag of coffees. Tell us a little bit about this offer. I think people should have fun. Good cup of coffee, a good read on a weekend.
Yeah, I mean, great coffee, a good book, plus your VIP membership, which allows them to chat with you I can't really put a price tag on all of that, but we're selling it with 1 2-pound bag for $65 or 2 for $78. So I would encourage all the fans out there to jump on it now while we still have them.
Yeah, that's a steal. Listen, just the VIP membership's like $50. So, I mean, you're getting a whole lot more. You're getting the book. You're getting a ton of coffee for several months of coffee. It's great. Leah, one other thing, because everybody's been asking. They love the 2-pound and 5-pound Inflation Buster bags. Those are a big hit. Iced coffee grounds, I think they're coming pretty soon, like maybe next month.
We are. We're working on the iced coffee. We'll have a super cool promo with it, maybe something tailored towards you and your people. So just have your folks stay tuned.
I like it. I like any special offers we can come out with. You are amazing. You're now going to be a global coffee magnet. How about that? That's just so amazing. Congratulations. We are so proud to be partnered with Wired to Fish Coffee. Leah, you're amazing. WiredToFishCoffee.com, folks, /Just News. Use Just News at the checkout. Either way, you're going to get there. You can also point on the QR code that we put up on the screen all the time. But go do it today. Go support them. We'll be back tomorrow. Amanda will be in the chair. I'll be on travel tomorrow.